Hello, and welcome to Democracy in Fiction, where we talk about the ways democracy interacts with fictional universes in pop culture. Today, we're talking about Animal Crossing. So, hi, I'm Tommy, I use he/him pronouns, and I love chilling with my best friend Rod the gym rat, who's been with me since we lived in tents.
I'm Mika, I use they/them pronouns, and I haven't played Animal Crossing since June when I missed Renee's birthday and have been too ashamed to return.
And hi, I'm Katie, I use she/her pronouns, and I've successfully turned my island, Starfall, into an octopus island with all 3 octopi villagers. So, Animal Crossing is a social simulation game published by Nintendo. We are specifically talking about the newest version, Animal Crossing New Horizons, for the Switch, which came out March of 2020, right when we were all headed into quarantine, which means it got a ton of hype right at the start of quarantine. I personally logged definitely a few hundred hours within that first month because I could not leave my house. The basic premise of the game is that you are a human villager and you live on an island. You move to a new island that is owned by Tom Nook, and you help develop this island into a nice little town. All your neighbors are other animals. They move to town, you help make decisions, and you kind of decorate and develop this island as much as you want it to. In this version of the game, you are elected in your first couple days on the island to be the island representative, so technically you are an elected official. And that means you have the power to make decisions about the island. You're allowed to decide where staircases are going to go, where bridges are going to go, where you can start deconstructing the river and changing the way water moves through your town.
You can also move around all of the other villagers and just force them to move their houses.
That's true. In past versions of the game, you as the player have been the mayor, you've been just a resident. There's been different iterations, but this is the first one where it's kind of explicitly stated that you are an elected official and you're elected by those first couple villagers who moved to the island with you at the beginning of the game.
Yep, you get 2 villagers, you get a kind of big sisterly animal, and you get a jock, and then you've got Tom Nook and the Nooklings, and you get unanimous majority, which means that you get 5 votes who aren't yourself, and you don't get the option to vote. You're the island rep.
So, although you are technically listed as an elected official, I would not really say that the Animal Crossing Society is a democracy.
Yeah, they elect, one person, however, Tom Nook is in control of everything, effectively.
Yeah. Tom Nook and They're kind of his adopted sons,
Are
Timmy
they?
and Tommy. They were swindled in the big city, like Tom was, and he took them in when they had no real money or anything.
Is this real lore?
Yes.
Huh.
Tom Nook lost everything when he was swindled by Red the fox, which is why they have bad blood between the 2 of them. But Red always wants to make some living and tends to follow you around because you have bells to spare. Bells are the currency, by the way. But yeah, that's sort of a bit of background. It's Tom and his adoptive sons run a very, very successful business chain, kind of. And their newest venture is Deserted Island Getaway Package. Have fun and live on Deserted Island, you get to name it. Which is, pretty sweet if you ask me. If given the chance I move to a deserted island for free and then have to make a living for the rest of my life by, catching bugs and talking to my neighbors and making furniture, I'd do it.
It's a pretty sweet gig.
I too would do it to exist outside of society.
Also, you start out with this wild territory, and you're kind of supposed to develop it into this
Bustling civilization.
Yeah.
You start off living in tents with just kind of trees and nature around, and as you unlock more things in the game, you can build roads and pathways and more stores and things like that. Or you can choose to leave your island more wild, which I know you do, Tommy.
Yeah, I like the way it looks. What can I say? But then you don't get as good of a grade, because you can ask Isabel to rank your island, and if it's not super developed, you get a lower score.
It's a sort of, I don't know, I went to someone's island and I realized that they were fantasizing about having a suburban neighborhood island, and I was like, wait, I can't do this. I can't do this to myself. There has to be weeds all over the place, and it has to be gross and nasty.
So yeah, something in Animal Crossing does inherently value creating a quote-unquote developed society. The more decorations and infrastructure you install onto your island, the higher your score gets. And I don't think you can achieve, like, a perfect island, so you get, like, the special flowers and stuff, without putting up a bunch of furniture and infrastructure. Actually, you mentioned Isabel earlier. Let's talk about Isabel a little bit. So Isabel is another character in the Animal Crossing world. She's been in, I think, every game. At least a couple most recent games.
Yeah. She, if I remember right, she got introduced in New Leaf, and she's been kind of a staple ever since. She got really popular then, and popular enough they ported her to Smash. And we're like, she's in every game now.
But yeah, Isabel, she was the mayor's assistant in past versions of the game, and now she is in charge of resident services on the island, which means she works for Tom Nook, but essentially she's a government employee. She's the one who helps you do things like set up talking to people on your island.
She can talk to people, she can get general surveys done, she can be like, people don't really like the way that this island is right now. Maybe they say there's too many weeds, and I can say they're wrong. But she can also do things like, if someone on your island is someone you don't like, you can tell her to kick them off, or like, tell them to change the shirt they're wearing, or something like that.
I did not know this. I have never said anything mean about any of my villagers, because I would feel bad.
That makes sense for you, Tommy.
It's one of those games where you do feel bad for being mean to people. I don't know, my mom has this whole thing of, like, she doesn't want ugly animals on her island, and she'll bully them off, but then feel mean about, like, talking to Isabel about them, and it's like, you're the one who's kicking them off for being ugly. I don't think there's ugly animals in Animal Crossing.
There's a couple ugly animals in Animal Crossing.
Yeah, there are.
But that's okay. They're good anyway.
I think some of them are ugly, but viewers, listeners, I don't blame you for liking them.
It's also interesting because Isabel is pretty much just a government employee, but she's working for Tom Nook, and so it's unclear whether Tom Nook is the government or if he is just a landowner who has invited you and you are, like, renting land from him, and he is within a larger, like, global society of some kind.
In previous games, such as in Wild World, there has been a different government system. Tortimer was the mayor at that in those games.
And there was a rail system that went between different villages.
Yeah.
That was implied. So, Tommy's making a face that says he loves trains. Yes, Tommy. This time there are airplanes because we're on islands, but in past versions of the game you would travel exclusively by train.
That's delightful.
Yeah. I think there's also a few boats to, like, Tortimer owns
true.
an island you could go to on a boat.
So, that implies that there is typically some sort of government structure in Animal Crossing. But that still does not clarify whether or not these islands that you're moving to are new nations, essentially, or just private land within a different society.
If I could do a little aside right now, I would like to mention that Animal Crossing has received a little bit of criticism for possibly a bit of imperialist leanings in there. It is a Japanese game. There is intrinsically a bit of Japanese folklore in there, with Tom Nook being not just a raccoon, but a tanuki, like, raccoon dog spirit. So far, like, this is intrinsic to the games. They can make you think, like, a tanuki can make you think that a leaf is anything, including furniture, which is why your furniture is stored as leaves.
Oh.
They also have rivalry with Kitsune, which is a fox spirit like Red. This is all to say that it is a very Japanese game, and Japan has had a long history of wanting to conquer islands. And it's a little... These islands are all uninhabited, according to Tom Nook. There is a ghost that lives on one of them, and there's a pre-built dock, which is a little concerning to me, because it means that one person at least died here. Sorry, Wisp. But that's something that I always keep in the back of my brain, and it's something that I would like to bring up here. This dude just bought a lot of islands. And also, apparently that means he owns them.
Yeah, and it's also, like, one of the most profitable things you can do is buy one of the Nook travel ticket things, go to another island, and just take all of its resources and then leave.
Yeah. I go over to my neighbor's house, I pick all of the pears in their yard, I chop down all of the trees, I pick all of the weeds, I catch bugs until I run out of things, and then I hop back over the fence to my own house and put all of those on eBay. Like, that's what I'm doing. Sometimes there's even someone else who's on vacation to this island.
You just run around them.
Yeah, you're just taking all their stuff.
To live on your island.
Imagine you're camping and I'm running around with the machete, like, taking your plants.
Speaking of Animal Crossing in real-world contexts, another interesting thing that happened with New Horizons was its use as kind of a political activism tool during the Hong Kong protests. There were reports of people in Hong Kong using the game as a way to create protest art, essentially, and state their opinions on the actions of the government in Animal Crossing, and leading to, I believe, the game being banned in Hong Kong at some point, or maybe not that part, but, something, all media inherently political.
Yeah, this is also, in America, AOC has been on Animal Crossing, has gone so far as to, like, post some tweets about, I think she's, like, invited people to her island before.
I think Biden was on Animal Crossing
Biden
too.
is campaigning on Animal Crossing, like, they are making Biden signs that you can scan in. I know there's a fashion company that released, like, one of their entire lines of clothes as scannable QR codes that you can put into your Animal Crossing island.
That's pretty cool, I'm very into that.
But the thing I was going on about AOC is that people have actually been on Twitter being mad about, like, this is what she's doing with your taxpayer dollars, like, actually, like, that's her wages. She can buy a Switch and she can play Animal Crossing if she wants. It's like, are you going to be yelling at the lady at the DMV for getting a manicure? I don't think so.
People are also mad about AOC Twitch streaming Among Us, which happened about a week or so ago, which was fantastic. We love to see it. But looping back into Animal Crossing not really being a true democracy, before this episode, we'd been talking about what would happen if you created an Animal Crossing game where the society was more democratic, and what would that look like? One of the things we talked about was the concept of canvassing for votes and petitioning things happening on the island. So one of the major actions you take is building bridges and staircases and infrastructure. And right now, to do that, you kind of just pay and place it there, and you collect donations to pay it off, except you're the only one who ever donates, so it's just you paying for it.
I've had some villagers donate, like, 5 bells.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you leave it out long enough, they'll pay.
I always just pay it off in one day and be done.
See, you never give them a chance to help contribute.
'Cause you are the wealthy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to be the 1% on an island of, like, 10, but...
I guess you're the 10%, technically.
Yeah. That's also a thing of, I don't think we could really do a 1-to-1 for America, because I don't really think, with an island of 10 residents and, like, maybe another 10 vendors and, like, people who do things on the island but aren't necessarily living there, you don't really need an electoral college.
I think you can do a direct democracy.
Yeah. In which case, you could just go around and lobby with people, and you could discuss one-on-one, and if you've got a grumpy villager who doesn't want, like, stairs to go up to a higher part of the village because they don't want it to be accessible to anyone, maybe you gotta bribe them. That's not exactly how democracy should work, but that might be how it works in a video game. Or maybe you could compromise by being like, listen dude, I'll give you a nice bench outside of your house. I will hand build this bench out of iron I mined from someone else's island.
Yeah, I think it would be really fun if, since the villagers already have built-in personality types, maybe those personality types have preferences for things they might want or not want. So, like you said, a grumpy villager, maybe they don't want a staircase right next to their house because it'll be noisy or something. So you have to figure out a way to either convince them or compromise and move it somewhere else or help them move their house somewhere. And I just think it would be fun.
It would also, like, definitely make you want more villagers. Like, early in the game, when you only have a few villagers, you are encouraged to get more villagers, but not really directly. It's just kind of stated, like, oh, you should make more houses and invite more people to live. But if you needed, say, like, 4 votes to get a ramp or something to be able to access another part of the island, then if you only have 3 villagers, you would need to get a 4th villager so that you have the 4 votes needed to get that ramp. It would also be more interactive overall. It would give you a reason to go talk to your villagers, which I would appreciate.
I know for a lot of people, I know the point of Animal Crossing is that they built a very free world-building game. There's very little restriction as to what you have to do in the game. You just kind of do whatever you want. And I know that's what a lot of people like about it, but I think it could be fun to make one that has a little more process in order to get things done. It just would make it a little more interesting.
Yeah, there's a certain point where I feel like I run out of busy work, and then it's like, I don't know what to do. Do I just make money for the sake of making money so I can buy more cute outfits and then run out of space in my house? Like, then what do I do? I don't know.
Then you gotta upgrade your house.
My house is already fully upgraded. It's the first thing I did. I didn't even invite new people to my island until I had the biggest house I could get.
It's all about that storage space and inventory management.
So I could fit as many skeletons as possible in my basement. In the altar room. Which is where I commit the rituals.
So, one other interesting thing about Animal Crossing is that you have a very complacent population. You can really do whatever you want, and that's part of the creative charm.
And
yeah,
the villagers sometimes will react to things that happen. They'll be like, wow, that's exciting. They'll be like, I like this new decoration. But they don't have any actual opinions on anything that goes into the island.
Yeah, the thing that I've seen that they get mad about is, like, if you whack them with a net too many times, they'll be like, wow, you're rude. I mean, in previous Animal Crossing games, especially notably the GameCube one, they would be rude if you missed their house party. They would, like, not really cuss you out, but the Animal Crossing equivalent of it. You're like, and it's like, it's someone going for your soul right there. They can also just, like, there's a thing where they can walk up to you and be like, I'm taking your furniture object that you have in your pocket and there's nothing you can do about it. All that is viable things that can happen in older Animal Crossing games, and now it's just sort of, people like you. Even like, grumpy ones and it's like the snooty villagers are the other ones. Even they are kind of toned down a bit. They're less rude to you.
I like that. I could not take the animal villagers yelling at me. I already don't like people yelling at me in real life. I don't need that in a game.
Yeah, I would not want that in a game. I do think it would be fun to, like, have to canvass all of your villagers to get votes to be able to do things. And then it wouldn't have to be money focused, because the government, aka Tom Nook, would have to pay for the infrastructure changes, but you just bring those to him and are like, this is what these residents want, and now you should go do it.
Animal Crossing New Democracy, next game coming 2021.
I'm just thinking, like, what if my villagers started bringing up propositions that I didn't like? Like, listen, 9 out of 10 people in this village put their paws in the air for having a new bridge right next to our old bridge, and I'm like, no, it's gonna look ugly! Like, how do I go around and dissuade everyone from making this new bridge? Can I do it before it's too late?
As the elected official, technically you should listen to your constituents, but you theoretically don't have to, right? In our hypothetical game.
Yeah, I mean, if this is a direct democracy, why don't you just be a constituent?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, you could just ask Isabel to eject anyone that doesn't agree with your, like, what you want to do.
That's authoritarian.
That's not a democracy.
It's not a democracy, but that is one of the workarounds to avoid democracy. Is you just change the voting base. You change
gerrymander your island.
You could make it so that you only have one personality type. Like, if I get all lazy villagers and they just want the entire island to be covered in bridges so that there's no river space so you don't need to pole vault, so be it. So be it.
Yeah, so what do you guys think? Like, what questions would you use to vet your island representative to help make sure that they don't just leave for months on end?
I'm sorry, the semester got really busy.
No, I am not doing well either.
Renee, I'm so sorry.
Well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Democracy in Fiction.